Hello and welcome back to BookPod. We are officially hitting the ground running today with Season 1, Episode 8. We're currently in Week 8 of our 12-week creative journey together, which means it's time to break down the profound, heart-centered lessons inside Chapter 7, Recovering a Sense of Connection. Today, we're unpacking what it really means to listen to the universal flow, dismantling the paralyzing grip of perfectionism, learning how to take true creative risks, and turning the bitter sting of jealousy into a detailed roadmap for your future. We will also dive deep into the fascinating practice of creative archaeology, break down this week's essential tasks, and close with our weekly check-in. This chapter is a beautiful turning point because it shifts us away from the financial blocks we handled last week and moves us directly into our spiritual alignment. It asks us to examine how we connect with ourselves, our guidance, and our true desires. So, over the next few minutes, let's unpack these blocks together and look at how we can transition from isolation to absolute creative connection. Listening. To truly recover a sense of connection, Chapter 7 requires us to master the quiet art of listening. Many times, we treat creativity like an active, aggressive pursuit where we must force ideas out of thin air. Julia Cameron completely flips this concept on its head. She reminds us that art is not something we invent out of sheer willpower. It is something we receive. Creativity is an act of dictation. The ideas, the inspiration, and the solutions are already floating in the universal flow, waiting for a clear channel. Our only job as artists is to quiet our racing minds, clear away the internal noise, and listen deeply. When you sit down to write your morning pages, or when you take yourself on an artist date, you are training your internal antenna to pick up these subtle, creative frequencies. If you are struggling with a project, stop trying to aggressively force it into existence. Instead, step back, get quiet, and listen for the next right step. The universe is always broadcasting. We just have to be willing to tune in. Perfectionism, risk, and the wit example. Once we start listening, however, we inevitably run into the single biggest barrier to creative reception: perfectionism. Perfectionism is not a badge of honor, and it is not a sign of high standards. In creative recovery, we call perfectionism what it truly is: a luxury of the blocked artist that breeds paralysis. It is a refusal to let yourself move forward because the initial draft isn't a flawless masterpiece. Perfectionism keeps us safely stuck at the starting line because if we never finish, we can never be judged. To break this gridlock, Chapter 7 urges us to embrace the necessity of risk. True creativity requires us to be willing to be bad artists so that we can eventually become good artists. It requires us to make mistakes, look foolish, and produce messy, imperfect work. A perfect example of this is the story of the filmmaker Michael Witt. Witt was an artist who found himself completely paralyzed by the pressure to create a flawless masterpiece. He was so terrified of making a mediocre film that he simply didn't make anything at all. He allowed the fear of a less-than-perfect outcome to rob him of the joy of the process. His story serves as a profound warning for all of us. When you demand perfection from a seed, you kill the plant before it ever has a chance to grow. We have to give ourselves the permission to take risks, fail forward, and value the messy act of doing over the illusion of being perfect. Jealousy and the jealousy map exercise. This brings us to one of the most uncomfortable, yet incredibly useful, emotions in the entire book: jealousy. We are taught that jealousy is a toxic, negative emotion that we should feel guilty for experiencing. But in Chapter 7, we learn that jealousy is actually an artist's best friend. It is a highly accurate tracking device. You never feel jealous of someone who is doing something you have absolutely no desire to do. You feel jealous because that person is doing exactly what you wish you were doing. Jealousy is a map of your unfulfilled potential. To harness this energy, Julia introduces the highly practical jealousy map exercise. To do this, you need to create 3 distinct columns in your notebook. In the first column, write down the name of the person you are jealous of. In the second column, write down the exact reason why you are jealous of them. Be brutally honest here. In the third column, translate that jealousy into an actionable step for yourself. For example, If you are jealous of a peer who just published a beautiful zine or listed a gorgeous piece of vintage art online, your action step isn't to resent them. Your action step is to block out 2 hours this weekend to work on your own layout or source your own inventory. The jealousy map takes the bitter sting of envy and transforms it into fuel, showing you exactly where you need to take action in your own life. Archaeology and the exercise. From mapping our current desires, Chapter 7 moves us backward in time to unearth our history through a process called archaeology. We carry old, buried memories of creative joys, half-finished projects, and early inspirations that we locked away because life got in the way or someone told us to be sensible. To dig up these lost treasures, we practice the archaeology exercise. This exercise uses quick sentence stem completions to bypass your defense mechanisms. In your notebook, quickly complete phrases such as, "If I didn't have to do it perfectly, I would try. As a child, I spent hours happily. A creative project I abandoned that still haunts me is. And if it weren't too late, I wish I could." When you review your answers, you will find a treasure trove of clues. You will see clear patterns of what your artist child is begging to explore right now. Archaeology is about reclaiming those abandoned pieces of yourself and realizing that it is never too late to pick up the threads of what you once loved. Allotted tasks. All of these insights bring us directly to your core tasks for Chapter 7 this week. Your first assignment is to complete your personal jealousy map with at least 3 to 5 entries. Do not judge your envy. Let it speak to you and write down those action steps. Your second task is to pick one abandoned project or hobby you uncovered during your archaeology exercise and spend just 20 minutes with it this week. Do not try to finish it, and do not try to make it perfect. Simply connect with the energy of it. The check-in. Now, before we close out today's episode, it is time for our weekly check-in to reflect on how your journey through the previous week actually went. Take a quiet, honest moment to check in with yourself. Did you manage to write your morning pages every single day this past week? If you noticed yourself skipping a day or resisting the pen, what financial or creative truths were you trying to avoid looking at? How did it feel to implement the counting exercise last week? Did tracking every single penny bring a sense of clarity, or did it stir up some intense anxiety and resistance? Did you manage to take your artist date? And did you allow yourself to enjoy a small, authentic luxury without feeling consumed by guilt or money madness? Finally, did you notice any self-sabotaging patterns, like overworking, picking arguments, or obsessing over budgets, creeping in to drag you away from your sense of abundance? Acknowledge whatever came up for you without an ounce of self-blame. Every piece of resistance you observe is just a milestone on your path to recovery. Adro. As you move into this next week, remember that you are inherently connected to a brilliant, endless stream of universal inspiration. Quiet the noise, stop demanding perfection from your first drafts, and allow yourself the grace to take creative risks. Map your jealousy, dig up your historical treasures, and step boldly into your truth. Keep writing your morning pages, protect your weekly artist date, and I will see you right here next week as we move into Chapter 8. Until then, take care of your artist and keep listening.